Daf Yomi, Tractate Bava, page 3b, Daf 3b, starting at the top of the Daf. And if it is a case where one did not declare them ownerless, there is still a difficulty. If Rav Papa's statement is in accordance with the opinion of Shmuel, who says we learned that one is liable for damage caused by all obstacles that he places in a public domain, whether or not he declares them ownerless, from the halachot with regard to one's pit, these cases are a subcategory of pit. And if Rav Papa's statement is in accordance with the opinion of Rav, who says, we learned that one is liable for damage caused by all obstacles that he places in a public domain, that he did not declare ownerless from the halachot with regard to one's ox that gored another animal, these cases are a subcategory of ox. With regard to the subcategories of ox, the Gemara already established that their legal status is like that of the primary category of ox. The Gemara asks concerning an obstacle that is a subcategory of pit, what is different about pit that it is defined as a unique category? It is that its initial formation, in other words, the digging of the pit, is done in a manner that can result in damage, and it is your property and responsibility for its safeguarding. To prevent it from causing damage to others is incumbent upon you. In these subcategories of pit, too, their initial formation, in other words, the placement of the obstacle in the public domain, is done in a manner that can result in damage, and they are your property and responsibility for their safeguarding. To prevent them from causing damage is incumbent upon you. Rather, it is apparent that the status of a subcategory of pit is like that of the primary category of pit. And when Rav Papa says there are among them some whose subcategories are dissimilar to them, he is referring to a subcategory of mave. The meaning of the term mave is not clear. Therefore, the Gemara asks, what is the primary category of mave, to whose subcategories the Gemara referred? If one suggests that Rav Papa said his statement is in accordance with the opinion of Shmuel, who says, mave, this is the category of eating, this cannot be Rav Papa's intent. But didn't we already establish that the legal status of a subcategory of eating is like that of the primary category of eating? Clearly, Rav Papa was not referring to subcategories of mave. And if one suggests that Rav Papa said his statement is in accordance with the opinion of Rav, who says mave, this is the primary category of man, which includes damage caused by a person, not by his property or animals, what primary categories and what subcategories are there in that category? The halacha is the same with regard to all damage that a person causes. And if you would say that there is a distinction, the primary category is a case where one causes damage while awake, and a subcategory is a case where one causes damage while asleep. But didn't we learn in the Mishnah 26a, the legal status of a person is always that of one forewarned, and he is liable for any damage that he causes, both when he is awake and when he is asleep. Accordingly, that is not the distinction between a primary category and a subcategory. Rather, perhaps Rav Papa was referring to cases where one causes damage with his phlegm or his spittle. The Gemara asks, what are the circumstances where one would be liable for damage in that case? If it is a case where his phlegm and spittle caused damage as they were moving through the air after the person expectorated, that is damage caused by his direct action, and there is no room to distinguish between the damage that is caused and any other damage caused by one's direct action. If it is a case where his phlegm or spittle caused damage after it comes to rest on the ground, example is if one slipped on the spittle fell and was injured, both according to Rav and according to Shmuel, this is a subcategory of pit, as the spittle is an ownerless obstacle in the public domain. Rather, it is apparent that the status of a subcategory of Mava is like that of the primary category of Mava. And when Rav Papa says there are among them some whose subcategories are dissimilar to them, he was referring to a subcategory of fire. The Gemara asks, what is a subcategory of fire? If we say that it is a case of his stone, his knife, or his load, where he placed them on top of his roof, and they fell off the roof by means of a common wind, and they caused damage, what are the circumstances in which one would be liable for the damage that was caused? If it is a case where those items caused damage as they were moving through the air, propelled by the wind, that is a case of fire. If so, what is different about fire that defines it as a unique category? What is different is that another force, the wind, is involved with the fire in causing damage, as the wind causes the fire to spread, and the fire is your property, and responsibility for its safeguarding and to prevent it from causing damage is incumbent upon you. In these subcategories of fire, too, another force is involved with the items placed on the roof and caused damage as the wind causes them to fall, and they are your property, and responsibility for their safeguarding to prevent them from causing damage is incumbent upon you. Rather, it is apparent that the status of a subcategory of fire is like that of the primary category of fire. And when Rav Papa says there are among them some whose subcategories are dissimilar to them, he was referring to a subcategory of trampling. The Gemara questions this explanation, a subcategory of trampling? But didn't we already establish that the status of a subcategory of trampling is similar to that of the primary category of trampling? The Gemara explains Rav Papa was referring to one's liability to pay half the cost of the damage caused by pebbles in a case where they were inadvertently propelled by the foot of a walking animal, which is a halacha learned through tradition and not explicitly written in the Torah. The Gemara asks, but if it is a unique halachic category and the payment is different, why is it characterized by a subcategory of trampling? The Gemara explains it is due to the fact that it shares a common aspect with trampling. One whose animal propels pebbles while it walks and thereby causes damage is liable to pay half of the damages from his superior quality property, and he does not pay only from the body of his animal, as is the halacha concerning half the cost of the damage paid by the owner of an innocuous ox that gored a person or an animal. The Gemara asks, but didn't Rava raise a dilemma with regard to that matter? As Rava raised a dilemma with regard to one's liability to pay half the cost of the damage caused by pebbles propelled by the foot of his animal, does one pay damages exclusively from the body of his ox that caused the damage, or does one pay damages from his superior quality property? The Gemara explains, although it is a dilemma for Rava, it is obvious to Rav Papa that one pays from his superior quality property, and in that sense, he classified the pebbles that cause damage as a subcategory of trampling. The Gemara asks, according to Rava, who raises it as a dilemma, why is it characterized as a subcategory of trampling when its legal status is different, both in terms of the extent of one's liability and in terms of the manner of payment? The Gemara explains, it is classified as a subcategory of trampling in order to exempt from liability pebbles that cause damage in the public domain, as damage in the category of trampling is exempt in the public domain. As one of the primary categories of damage enumerated in the Mishnah is the category of maveh, and another is the category of fire, the Gemara asks, what is the meaning of maveh? Rav says, maveh, that is the category of man, which includes a person who causes damage, but not the property or animal of a person that causes damage. And Shmuel says, maveh, this is the category of eating. The Gemara elaborates. Rav says, maveh is the category of man as it is written. The watchman said, morning has come, and also night, if you will inquire, tivayun, like maveh, inquire, bayu. Isaiah 21:12. The term tivayun and be'ayu, meaning inquire, refer to a person who is able to inquire. Accordingly, maveh relates to an action performed by a person. And Shmuel says, maveh, this is the category of eating, as it is written, how Esav searched out, nefsu, nechafsu, how are his hidden places revealed, nivu. Obadiah 1:6. The term nivu and maveh share a common root. The Gemara asks, from where may it be inferred that nivu connotes eating? The Gemara explains that it is, as Rav Yosef translates the verse into Aramaic, how is Esav searched out, it bel ish, and how is his hidden places revealed, it galyan. The meaning of the Aramaic term it galyan means revealed, and that is the meaning of the Hebrew word nivu. Maveh references the animal's teeth, which are covered when its mouth is closed and revealed when it eats. The Gemara asks, as for Rav, what is the reason that he did not say that maveh refers to eating, as does Shmuel? The Gemara explains that Rav could have said to you, it is taught in the Mishnah, niveh. Niveh is the passive form of the word maveh, which would be the appropriate form of the reference, if the reference was to teeth that are revealed. The term in the Mishnah is maveh, not active, it's an active form of the verb. And as for Shmuel, what is the reason that he did not say that maveh refers to the category of man, as does Rav? The Gemara explains that Shmuel could have said to you, it is taught in the Mishnah, boeh. Is it taught in the Mishnah, boeh? Boeh is a form of the word maveh, connoting an action taken directly, which would appropriate where the reference to one's actions that cause damage. The term in the Mishnah is maveh, which connotes an action that one causes another to take. The Gemara notes, after all, the meaning of the term in the verses is not precise according to one sage, Rav, and it is not precise according to the other sage, Shmuel. It is apparent that their dispute is not based upon their interpretation of the verses. It must be based on another issue. The Gemara asks again, as for Rav, what is the reason that he did not say that maveh refers to eating, as does Shmuel? The Gemara explains, Rav holds that the Tana teaches the primary category of ox in the Mishnah. This includes damage caused by an ox in all matters involving damaging actions that are completed by an ox. In other words, the actions included in the categories of goring, eating, and trampling. Perforce, maveh refers to a different category of damage, in other words, man. The Gemara asks, and as for Shmuel too, who interpreted maveh as eating, doesn't the Mishnah teach the category of ox, which should include all matters involving damaging actions that are completed by an ox? Rabbi Yehuda said that according to Shmuel, the Tana teaches ox, specifically with regard to damage caused with its horn, and teaches maveh with regard to damage caused with its tooth. And when the Mishnah contrasts ox with mave, this is what the Tana is saying. The defining characteristic of the primary category of goring, where there is no inherent pleasure for the animal in the course of its causing damage, is not similar to the defining characteristic of the category of eating, where there is pleasure for the animal in the course of its causing damage.